This is a day in the life of our Relief Society sister, the widow Margaret Bryce. When the messenger boy came, he found Margaret Bryce in her kitchen, hurriedly preparing buttermilk biscuits for the family's breakfast.
Good morning, Sister Bryce. I have a telegram.
Margaret Bryce stopped. The blood fled from her cheeks, and she dropped her dish towel to the ground and froze. Jimmy, her missionary boy. It must be bad news. Only last summer Fred Davis had died in the mission field of pneumonia. These thoughts sped through her mind like lightning, and her hands trembled as the words danced before her eyes. A look of relief, followed by one of joy, came into her face. She picked up her towel and returned to her morning work after reading these words. So Marion was coming to see her. She had not seen her twin sister for 25 years. Yes, it was when Bertha was a baby that she had paid her last visit. It was with mixed pleasure that she recalled that visit even now. Marion and her James had never gotten along well. Marion objected vigorously to the way James let his wife wait upon him, and she had said some unkind and cutting things. Margaret had felt they were justified in a way, but felt duty-bound to take sides with her husband. An estrangement between the sisters resulted. Over the years it had been bridged to some extent through occasional letters, and Marion was ever inviting Margaret to visit her. James had never been willing to allow that, but he had allowed the girls to go out for a visit 4 years earlier. But now poor James was gone, and Marion was coming. Mrs. Bryce had a glow of happiness as she thought about her beloved twin sister. Even as a child she had envied the way Marion had of getting what she wanted so easily. Twins, yes, but entirely different. Margaret finished the outdoor chores which had consumed nearly 2 hours of her morning. A tired sigh escaped, as she was already feeling weary. She crossed over to the calendar, only to realize that today is the 22nd. That Mrs. Atkins? As usual, the telegram had been delayed in delivery. Marion might be here at any moment.
Maud! Maud! Maud!
Margaret remembered the hike and the headache, and softly closed the door. It made Maudie so cross to have to work with a headache. Upon returning to the messy kitchen, she surveyed the cluttered countertops, and there in the corner, Bertha's potatoes greeted her. Dear, dear, she had forgotten the potato project. They ought to be on right now. It took so long to can vegetables. She pushed the dirty dishes aside and began to peel the potatoes.
Will, I need the grease can.
Where's the grease can?
Oh, I think it's in the pantry. Oh, it's not in here. It's up the stairs.
It ain't up here.
Look around a little bit.
Still isn't here.
Margaret wearily ascended the stairs. She had just returned with the grease can when Betty's announcement made her lose all hope for any help.
Mother, Alpha and I are going out to Grandin to get some things from the bazaar.
Betty, I got a telegram today from Aunt Marion. She's coming in today.
Oh, good! We get to see her again! We haven't seen her for like 3 years.
I have a lot of work to do today. I gotta can those potatoes. Your sister dropped the boys off. I need your help.
But where's Mama?
She's in bed with a headache, and she can't work today. I guess I can manage it by myself.
Well, we'll be back as soon as we can.
Bye.
Mom, we need to pack a lunch for our ice fishing trip for the Boy Scouts. We need some beans and maybe a cake or some of the little stuff.
Oh, really? There's so much to do today, but I've got all this canning to do. I've got the kids, and Aunt Marion's coming today, but I'll try.
We need to make you something good. I don't want Marion to come because we have to do so much work, and why can't just Betty stay?
Margaret was now doing potatoes and a treat for Will's lunch. Maybe Ned could help. Where was he? She still hadn't seen hide nor hair of him all day. As she glanced up from her work, a flash of red caught her eye outside. One look out the back window answered her question. There was Ned now, dashing across the lawn. 3 times in a 15-minute span told her there would be no help from him any time today. It was nearly 5 o'clock when a fancy new tea drove up to the Bryces' gate. A tall, dark woman got nimbly out and walked to the front porch. The potatoes were bottled, the house tidied, ironing finished, and cookies baked. But at the sound of that car, she looked down in dismay at her own soiled dress and felt her untidy hair. There had never been a moment in the day to give any care to her personal appearance. Nevertheless, she hurried to greet her sister.
Maggie! Oh, so good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
Here, let me get your luggage.
Oh, for heaven's sakes! Maggie! Ned, please come help me with my luggage.
Come in.
Oh, Ned, it's so good to see you. You've grown so much.
You must be tired of that long travel. Come sit down.
Oh, I am tired. You're right. But not half as tired as you look. Maggie, you're not still working yourself to the bone, are you? Oh, I thought since Jim had passed away and your children have nearly grown, that you would be taking life a little easier. Oh, you must come visit me and take a rest. You need a good long rest. You know, I'm so sorry. I've been meaning to visit since Jim died, and I just never got over here. But now is the perfect time for you to come home with me, and we'll have a good visit, and you can take that rest that you've deserved.
The first morning after her arrival, and barely daylight, she heard someone chopping wood. From the window she could see her suspicions were right. Maggie was the woodcutter.
Ned! Ned! You need to get up and go milk the cow. You and John need to be out in the field.
Give me 5 more minutes.
Ned was certainly busy, but the 5 minutes stretched into 30 until...
Ned!
the cow was milked.
Girls! Girls! I've already reminded you to come turn the butter and separate the milk. Girls!
And who churned the butter? As Marion continued to observe the family during the week, it became obvious that her twin sister's married children took great advantage of her. Daily, the teenagers and even Margaret's grandchildren let her wait on them and work circles around them as they relaxed and played right under her feet. A determined resolution took possession of her. She was going to make a reformation in that household, and she had a plan. But she must keep her tongue while she was there, and that would prove to be most difficult.
Look, Maggie, you really need to come home with me. We'll leave next Friday. I hope you can be ready by then.
I don't know, Marion. The girls got sewing before school, and John's wife's going to be having her baby, and I'm always here when she has her baby, and there's so much to do, Marion.
Maggie, you really need to come.
I don't know, Marion. I just don't know.
Though Margaret had no idea of going, she did broach the subject to the family the next afternoon when they were all there, and she thought Aunt Marion was out calling on a neighbor.
Children, your Aunt Marion's asked me to go home with her.
What? You've been You've been here in a couple of years. All the chores. We got extra chores. Maybe just a disaster.
Mother, what about Nettie? Her baby's due.
John, I'm just...
Yeah, what about Nettie?
Exactly.
You can't
She was completely swamped by this avalanche of arguments. No more was said about her going until Thursday afternoon, when Aunt Marian began to get her things together.
Maggie, you are coming with me on Friday, aren't you?
Marian, I thought it's over. I don't think it's a good time to go right now.
Oh, I'm sorry, Maggie. If anybody needs a rest, it's you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thursday night, if anyone had awakened about midnight, they would surely have thought burglars were in their home. Aunt Marian was still hurriedly packing bags, and not just her own. She had no time to waste. She tiptoed down the stairs, loaded an extra traveling bag into the cargo area of her car, and then slipped back upstairs and into bed, dozing off with a satisfied smile on her face. Bright and early the next morning, Aunt Marian suggested that Maggie take a jaunt into town with her to buy some traveling essentials for her trip home and to fill the Ford with petrol.
Are you ready to go to town for supplies?
Children, I'm leaving with Aunt Marian to go to town to get supplies.
Let's go. That's what she thinks.
It was Betty who found Aunt Marian's letter. It was tucked in the novel she was reading. Aunt Marian had been pretty sure that Betty would take a peek at the book before she ever cleaned up the breakfast table.
Maud! Georgie! Will! Come here! Dear nephews and nieces, I have kidnapped your mother. You young folks seem very intelligent and nice to me in most ways, but it is very evident you are not up in your history.
Or else you would know that the days of slavery in the United States ended with the Civil War. I found a veritable slave with a half-dozen masters in your home. I have taken it upon myself to set her free. I have made arrangements so that none of you will really suffer while she is away, but I am going to keep her until I am convinced her own children are ready to treat her as a mother rather than a slave. Lovingly, Aunt Marian.
Meanwhile, in the peace and quiet, Maggie has fallen asleep in Marian's car.
Marian, where are we going? We're not going to get supplies, are we?
Maggie Bryce, you are kidnapped, I tell you. Don't worry. Your things are all packed in the back and I've made all of the arrangements.
Marian Sanders, you turn this car around. The children need me. What about Nettie and the baby and the children they're sewing?
Oh, Nettie will be all right. I've arranged for a Relief Society sister to go over and help her with the baby. And I've arranged for a beehive leader to go help the girls with their sewing. Maggie Bryce, you are a slave. First it was Jim, and now it's 10 times worse. You are a slave to each and every one of your children. I'm surprised they're not more spoiled than they already are.
I love serving. You always do things for those you love.
Well, of course you do. But you're robbing them of the joy of doing for you and serving you. I will not let you go back until you have learned your lesson and they have learned theirs. You've been half killing yourself all these years. Maggie, I want you to go back to them as a mother and a companion, not as a slave.
You're always a born manager, Marian. I wish I was more like you.
Well, you can be. You know, these last few days I have learned a lot from you, Maggie. You have the gift of love, the gift of service, the gift of patience, but you also need to learn the gift of receiving. Oh, Maggie, don't be angry. I did this because I love you.
And I love you too, Marian. You know, I've always wish I had the courage to do something like this. You've had the courage for both of us. You know, I guess the children will be okay without me for a few weeks. I do need a little rest.
You do. Maggie, kick up your heels. You are a free woman. This is the day of your emancipation. First thing on the docket, the Relief Society birthday social.